What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Too Fresh Fishing custom bait making series on YouTube. I definitely thank you all for tuning in with me today, and I would also like to send a shout out to all of my new subscribers for the month of June. I really thank you guys for the support, and I definitely thank you for coming in and seeing what I'm doing on the channel, and hopefully what I'm doing is inspiring other bait makers to do more with their gift of creation. So without further ado, I am going to go into doom, 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 doom. Look at this piece of, I would think, artistic swimbaitry, if I can call it that. This is my newly created Bullseye swim bait. And basically what we have is the Angling AI 6-inch swim bait. This one particular one is with the hook slot. What I went in and did was I created a bullseye right here, in which today we're going to switch the position of this in the bait, and I shot a clear area in the middle that ran down the lateral, I guess it's the lateral portion of the body, that allows the bullseye to be seen clear through. And what you probably can't see is that that little bullseye right there has a little bullseye around it that is glow in the dark. So if you hit this with a nice ray of light and you turn out the lights, or if you're fishing at nighttime, you hit it with a flashlight and you throw it in the water, this little area is going to light up, as well as the tip of your tail, to give your fish, or the predatory fish, a better target. Hence the Bullseye swim bait. Man, oh man, it is super hot in Florida today, guys. We are well up in the 90s today, and I can really feel it, and I decided to choose one of the hottest days of the week to come out and do a video. But for you guys' educational benefit, I'm willing to burn up. So what I want to do prior to starting this project is I want to quickly run over what I'm utilizing. So we'll start from the bottom of the bait. We have basically a pearl white that is going to be the bottom third of your bait, that is basically just going to serve as your bottom portion of your bait, just to keep it in kind of a shad-like pattern. And then we're going to have a window of opportunity, which is going down the bait laterally, which is just a clear dead-on plastic, which I use. Now for the white, I used the dead-on plastics white, and I added a pearl powder to it, and I also added some of the VGA from Dip Your Car to it, just a little bit, to give it a slight color shift. I won't do this in the final product. I just had some of it left over, so that's what I used. Now, here's where the tediousness of this particular project is working. I then added the red kill dot, and on top of the red kill dot, I added a bullseye, a circular bullseye area of just the chartreuse glow powder on each side, just to give that circular bullseye pattern in the bait, as well as added it to the lower portion of the tail. The top portion is just a regular chartreuse, and then the black is, the lateral line at the top is a black, which, if you can tell, it's not perfect, but it meets the chartreuse. This bait definitely takes some time to do, because you're going to be shooting it not in just a layered pattern, but you're going to be blending your colors, as well as taking time to allow some areas to set up first prior to pouring your next color. All of this was done on a cold mold, so I did not heat my mold up prior. I poured everything first, and then I heated the mold up to about 370 to 75 degrees and allowed it to sit for about 5 or 10 minutes just to solidify everything to prevent cold cracks. So let's get into the process. All right guys, so we have our plastic heated and we are ready to go. So our first step is going to be to put a clear coat or a skin pour around this area of the gill pattern for where our bullseye is going to go. Now, what I want for you guys to pay attention to is where this is. Now, just from trial and error now, I'm noticing that I want my bullseye up higher, and I also want it a little bit further up towards the front of the bait, closer to the eyes. So I'm going to use this middle area here, right where the fin ends at, as my center point for my red. So we're going to start off doing two things. We're going to skin pour right around this area. Then we're going to wait for a moment, put our red dot, and then after that, well, three things. We're going to put our bullseye, which will be the chartreuse glow powder, right on top of the red dot. So we're going to start off with our skin pour. So what we're basically going to do is we're going to start off right at the top gill area, and we're just going to pour a quick skin coat. If it gets over the eye area, it really doesn't matter. And then we're going to do the next one. Number 3. And then lastly, number 4. So the reason that I'm pouring the skin pour or the skin layer is to ensure that when I put the red dot on, that after we start to hand pour on the hot mode, that it doesn't bleed on the inside. So it's kind of just to keep it encapsulated, to keep it in one area. So we're gonna go over now and we're gonna take the red, and I wanna show you guys what I'm using for the red. I use the MF non-bleed red shad, and I also use the MF non-bleed strawberry. And I basically just mixed them up and did that. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to add our red kill dot, and I'm using my thermostat probe, and that's what I'm going to be utilizing to just dab it onto here. And the thing that you have to make sure that you check on is once this starts to set up and you get your red and start to add it on, it's a possibility that your bead of plastic might move. So I usually get the heat gun, heat this up just a little bit before I apply it on there to make sure that once that plastic, the red plastic hits it, that it sticks to it instead of rolling around. All right, so let me get the red heated up and I'll be back. All right guys, so we have our bloodline colors pretty hot, and I've already used the heat gun in order to heat it up. So what I'm going to do now is just take my probe, make the drop come in, and then I'm going to take that last drop and let that sit there. And then I'm going to do the same thing with the rest. So I'm letting the majority of it drip out, and then I'm taking that last drop. And yes, it does take a steady hand, and yes, I have messed up a few times, so that's the first time that I actually got it all done on one shot without it moving, and I am happy about that. All right, so I'm gonna, while I'm doing this or letting this set up, I'm gonna show you guys one of them, and I'm going to let the other color start to heat up. All right, so see that? Just one little bead, and that's it. Now, once you add the chartreuse glow-in-the-dark powder to it, it's going to cause this to melt a little bit, but because it's a solid unified ball, it'll make the red evenly distribute itself, so you're more likely to get that pattern versus a non-even pattern. All right, guys, so now we have our glow powder heated up, and our mission now is to put a circular splash of the glow powder right here without putting too much. So this is where the steady hand and the patience is really important. So all I'm going to do is do that. That was probably a little bit too much, but we're going to take it. And I'm going to move this so I can get into this one better. And then I'm going to add it here. And then I'm going here. That was better. And then I'm going to add here. And that's good enough. And it doesn't have to be perfect. The biggest thing you want to make sure you try not to do is you try not to disrupt how your red kill dot looks. And all of them weren't perfect, but you want to keep it as close together. Almost looks like a red yolk sack. And I'll show you, because everything's not going to come out perfectly, but it still is in the same place, and you still have the circular pattern with your glow. Okay, so our next step now is put our hook slides back in place, and that'll be on both molds, and then close our mold up. Get that done. Now, we're still not going to heat up the mold. So once we have our molds put back together, our next mission is to pour our bottom layer, which is going to be our pearl white, and then we're going to also at the same time pour our glow-in-the-dark tip for our tail. So we're going to heat up these two, and then we're going to be back. All right, guys, so now we're on to the next step, and we shall be adding our white bottom, which will go along this area of the bait. So I am going to start at the head, and very important that you don't fill all the way up over our hook slot. So you want to fill in just to where the plastic starts to go into the tail, but you don't want to completely fill the hook slot area in. So you want to make sure that you stop your white just as you get over the top or close to the top of the hook slot to stop it from spilling into the tail, as well as to make sure that you have enough area for your clear to be poured. Now we're going to go to the back tail area, and we're going to pour our glow-in-the-dark right up to where it starts to go into the tail and stop. And again, we're not heating up our plate yet because we want everything to be cold poured so that we don't get a lot of blending. Now, we're gonna allow this to cool off just a little bit, we're going to heat up our clear, and then we're going to apply our clear lateral line that's going to stop right where the tail is, and then we're also going to pour our chartreuse on top of the glow to meet up with the clear line here. But we're going to stop to make sure that we save room for the black, because this is where it's going to be a little bit more time consuming, because we're going to have to hot pour both of these to make sure that we don't get the chartreuse to bleed too much into the black, or the black to blend into the chartreuse area too much in the tail. So we're gonna kind of layer it until we build up from the clear to the top of our bait. All right guys, so we have our clear heated up, and it's turning a little bit yellow, but you won't be able to tell that in the bait, and it's just because I've been heating this up since yesterday. So our goal here is going to be our lateral line going through the bait and stopping at the tail. So we're going to start at the head again, and we're going to stop just as it starts to run into our tail area. Now you're going to cover up the hook slot, and you're going to allow it to cool off just for a little bit to set up, and then you're going to pour another layer so that you build the thickness up, because you want your layer to be pretty thick. So you definitely want to make sure that it covers your red dot, which we're almost at covering this one. So I do want to bring it up a little bit more, just so that it'll have a clear, visible view through the bait. So I'm going to finish heating up my chartreuse in black, which I have in the microwave. I'm going to pour another coat of this in about 30 seconds. And then once I get this poured and we get the chartreuse in black heated up, I'll be back to show you the chartreuse. Okay guys, so here is the fun part. Now we're basically going to put our black and our chartreuse on. And I need to note that I did go in to the back of our mold and add a little bit more glow to the back, just to bring the level up flush, so that when the chartreuse is added on, it creates more of a flush line going across the tail, and it doesn't have a dip in it. So just wanted to make sure I pointed that out. So make sure that if you are doing this, that once you bring your chartreuse or your glow up, level up, you go back in and you add a little bit more to build it up higher. So we're going to pour our black, first layer of our black in, starting at the head, and allow it to flow back right into the tail area with an even flow. We don't want it to run all the way in the back. We just want it to like settle in a little bit past the middle. So gotta guesstimate when you want to stop pouring. So hopefully that'll do it, and it won't run too far, because the goal is going to be to add a little bit more to the mold to level it off here. But we want it to, instead of the chartreuse running into the black at the top, we want our black to run into the chartreuse. And I'm just getting all kinds of stuff on top of this, but yeah, we want our black to run into the chartreuse to create this little arrow type pattern in here. So there's going to be a dip that's in the bait once you start with the black, but you're going to cover that with chartreuse, and then you're going to bring the chartreuse all the way up, and then you're going to pour another level of white in. This one you're going to have to make a lot hotter, and then it's going to flow into and meet the chartreuse here. So, and at the end of it, you're going to heat your grill up, which is going to make everything unify on the inside, but you're going to need a heat gun or a lighter to light the top up to smooth it out at the top so everything blends into it. So let's get the chartreuse poured. And I did let that cool down intentionally so it doesn't flow in so much with the black. I just want it to meet right at the black, so we don't really get an intrusion by the black into the chartreuse, nor the chartreuse into the black. I'm going to heat this up with the lighter or with the heat gun, and then I'm going to put another layer of chartreuse here to fill up my layer of chartreuse up to the rim, and then I'm going to flow another hotter layer of black in so that it creates that little arrow line, or try to attempt to create the arrow line in it. So let me heat this up, and you already know, we'll be back. All right guys, so we'll be back heated up again. So what I'm going to do is pour my final layer of chartreuse and allow it to run in and fill up the cavity here. And then I'm going to do the same thing on this side. And while we're still hot, this is the important part, while we're still hot, I'm going to go ahead and pour my layer of black. And allow it to run into the chartreuse. And then I'm going to do that here. I did heat the top up with the lighter. And this is the arrow that I was speaking in reference to. Didn't work that much over there. I'm not worried about that. But as long as we have a filled cavity, that's all I'm really concerned with. And this is what I'm doing with the lighter. I'm just heating it up to, one, get rid of any bubbles that might be on the top. I'm gonna have to cover this because I have the fan behind the camera, so you have to excuse me while I do this. All right, and then that is going to be it. Now let me show you guys, just for demonstration purposes, if you were using a heat gun, I have a Black & Decker. What I'm doing, I would do here is the same thing. Cut it on a low heat or low power and just allow it to heat up to help blend it in. You don't want to blow it or cut it up like this, because you'll end up heating your plastic up and making it slide, which will still be able to be corrected once you heat it up at the end of the mold, or once you heat the mold up with the hot plate. And once you do this, you're done. All you do then is cut your plate on, allow it to heat up, and I usually do between 370 and 380. Allow it to, once it's hot, allow it to stay on for about 5 to 10 minutes. Cut it off, take it and put it into an area to cool off, and then open the mold up. All right, guys, the moment we've all been waiting for. All right, so one thing I can tell you guys is whenever you're using the open pour, and I probably said this a few times in my videos, when this thing gets hot, I don't care how tight you make these screws on there, once it cools down, you're gonna notice that they're loose. And the first time I did this, I actually thought that I had forgotten to tighten it up, but every time I do hand pours and I heat these up on the hot plate, I notice that the screws tend to come out. So, all right, or come loose. So let's crack this baby open and see how we're looking. Look at that. Woohoo! Let's take him out. See what we're looking like. I'm liking. Look at that. You can see the transparency in the middle area. You can see our target area here from the Bullseye, where we have the glow in the dark. Our red dot stayed pretty much intact. On the other side, it bled just a little bit, but who cares? All right, let's crack this one open and see what we're looking like. All right. Uh-oh. Sorry about that, guys. We're looking good. What I do notice is that this is down a little low, so I did bring the white up a little too high on this. So it still looks good. I definitely will say that it doesn't look bad, but it's not where I actually wanted it to be. I would have preferred it being up a little bit more, but I can still see my glow area from my bullseye here, as well as on this side. You can see the transparency from the skin layer, and we have the transparency there. Our tails came out real good. I like the way that the glow in the dark leveled out on the back end. And let me get one of these, even though they're kind of beat up right now, and let me show you guys the difference. I haven't placed the eyes on yet, but I am really liking this. I do notice on the original one, the clear was definitely more wider, but I still am satisfied with what I have. So, all right, guys, I am pretty stoked right here. Another job well done, and I can consider this a complete success. All right, so let's get some eyes popped in right quick so we can get a final look at how these are going to be. What I do like is that with this size mold, you don't have to worry about adding glue if you're going to clear dip. Just push them on, and once you clear dip, it'll definitely lock them in, and you'll be set. One more, and we're good to go. Dudes, it's like super hot in this garage. All right, so see that? All right, and do the upside down and then flip it around. Pretty cool. All right, guys, let me set back up and we can get this video closed out. All right, guys, we are done and we're wrapping things up. So let me grab this right quick. And this is the initial one that I did a couple of days ago. I think this was yesterday or the day before yesterday. Yesterday. So this is our initial one, and this is our second attempt. So I'm gonna hold these up so you guys can see. So I really am liking the fact that I was able to get the kill spot with the target area exactly where I wanted to get it, closer towards the eyes and by the more up into the gill plate versus down towards the middle of the fish. So it's basically a learning experience. And then I do need to remember on this side with the white to come down a little bit less. So instead of coming almost up to the top of the hook slot, I'm going to come a little bit below the hook slot to just make sure that I have enough area for my translucent line that's running laterally on the bait to have enough, I guess, space to fit the red dot in the bullseye right in the center of it. So I am super stoked with the way it came out. I'm glad to see that I was able to recreate this, and it is time consuming. It definitely does take a lot of time, and I did go on Angling AI and order another of the 6-inch molds, so I'll be able to actually do 3 of these at a time. So if I'm going to be placing orders for someone or fulfilling orders, I can do an entire order since I sell them in the sets of 3. And I also ordered 3 of the 4-inch just so I can do some smaller versions of this type of bait, since I really like this, and a lot of my snook fishermen and bass fishermen like using this for catching. So guys, thank you again for tuning in to another episode of Too Fresh Fishing's custom bait making, and I again thank you for your support. As always, please, if you like the video, hit the thumbs up button down there, drop some comments, let me know what you think about this, and if there's anything that you'd like to see me try, or if you have any questions about what I did today, subscribe and share so that other people can see what myself and the other bait makers are doing. And that's about it. It is super hot down here in Florida right now, guys, and I am burning up, so it's time for me to get out of this garage and find myself a spot in the AC. So as always, guys, get somebody, take them out, and create a too fresh moment, because life is too fresh to not go fishing. Have a good day, guys. Peace.